My ex accused me of abandoning my son, but when my sister organized protests at my job with signs, I sued both for $40K and the evidence destroyed them. I'm 29 years old, work in digital marketing for a medium-sized company, and honestly, never thought I'd have to tell this story. But here we are. What happened basically destroyed my relationship with my sister and put my whole family in a horrible position. And it all started with a text message I got like a year and a half ago. It was from Stephanie, my ex, from like 5 years ago, someone I literally hadn't talked to since we broke up. And when I say we hadn't talked, I mean not a single message, not a like on social media, nothing. So you can imagine how weird it was to see her name on my phone. The message said something like, "I need to talk to you urgent, it's important." And I thought, well, maybe she needs some kind of closure or who knows what. But I never, and I mean never, imagined what would come next. I responded like, "Sure, what's up?" And she tells me we need to meet in person. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near my place that weekend. And when I got there, she wasn't alone. She had a kid with her. A little kid I figured was like 4 or 5 years old. They sat down in front of me, and Stephanie looks at me with this serious face and says, "Tyler, meet Jackson, your son." I froze, completely froze. Like, my brain stopped working for a few seconds because, did she really just say that? I said, "Wait, what? What are you talking about?" And she started with this whole story about how she'd discovered she was pregnant after we broke up, that she hadn't told me because she was scared, that she'd tried to raise him alone but now needed help, and that I had an obligation to support my son. The kid was sitting there, playing with a toy, completely oblivious to this conversation that was basically turning my life upside down. The first thing I thought was, okay, this doesn't make sense, because Stephanie and I had broken up more than 5 years ago. And if this kid was 5 years old, the math didn't quite add up for me. But beyond that, I knew we'd always been super careful. Always. We weren't irresponsible teenagers, we always used protection and all that. I told her, "Look, if this is true, I need a paternity test. I need to be sure." She said, how dare I doubt her, that it was obvious the kid was mine, that I just had to look at him. And I responded, "No, Stephanie, that's not how this works. If you're asking me to acknowledge a child as mine and pay child support, I need to be 100% sure." The meeting ended badly. She got up super angry, grabbed the kid and left, saying I was going to regret it, that I was a coward, that I was abandoning my son, a whole drama. I sat there in the coffee shop trying to process what had just happened, because the truth is, part of me was terrified. Like, what if he really was my son? What if something had happened that I didn't remember, or that had failed? But another part of me, the more rational part, knew this didn't make sense, that I needed to confirm everything before making any decisions. Like 2 weeks passed and Stephanie kept sending me messages, some super aggressive like, "You're going to pay everything you owe me from these 5 years," and others more manipulative like, "Jackson asks about you. Don't be cruel to an innocent child." I always responded the same thing. "Let's do the paternity test and we'll talk with proof." She made 1,000 excuses. That it was too expensive, he offered to pay for it. That she didn't trust laboratories, he told her we could go to a certified one, basically any reason not to do it. And that, honestly, was already telling me everything I needed to know. Finally, after threatening to go to court and have a judge order the test, she agreed. We went to a laboratory. They did the procedure that literally takes 5 minutes, and they told me we'd have results in a week. Going to lie. I couldn't concentrate at work. I wasn't sleeping well. And my family had already found out about the whole thing because, well, my sister Megan found out and decided this was her personal crusade. Megan is like 26 years old. She's 2 years younger than me, and she's always been one of those people who gets into social causes, which is fine, but sometimes she takes it too far. You know what I mean? When she found out that Stephanie was saying I had a son, she immediately decided I was the villain of the story without even hearing my side. She showed up at my parents' house one Sunday. He was there for a family meal, and literally attacked me in front of everyone. She told me I was an irresponsible father, that I was oppressing a single mother. How dare I ask her for a paternity test as if she were a liar? Basically everything Stephanie had put in her head. I tried to explain the situation to her. I said, Megan, listen to me. The numbers don't add up. She refuses to do the test. I have a right to be sure before legally and financially committing to a child who might not even be mine. But she didn't want to listen. My brother Ryan, who's like 2 years older than me, tried to defend me and told Megan she was being irrational, that any man in my position would do the same, but she accused him of being part of the problem, of perpetuating the patriarchy or something like that. My parents, James and Carol, were trying to calm the situation, but it was obvious they were uncomfortable with the whole thing. My dad eventually supported me and told Megan to calm down, that we should wait for the test results before jumping to conclusions, but my mom was more in neutral mode. Like, I don't want problems with any of my children. The results arrived in my email on a Tuesday morning. I was at work and could barely open the file because my hands were shaking. It said there, clear as day, probability of paternity, 0%. Mr. Tyler is not the biological father of the minor Jackson. I felt like 500 tons were lifted off me. I took a screenshot of the document and sent it to Stephanie immediately, with a message that said, "Here are the results. I hope this closes the matter." I also sent it to my family. I thought that would be the end. I thought Stephanie would disappear, that Megan would apologize, that everything would go back to normal. I was so wrong it's almost funny. Stephanie responded with pure insults, that the laboratory was wrong, that I had manipulated the results. How? No idea. That she was still going to make me pay. And Megan, instead of apologizing, got worse. She sent me a super long message saying the test didn't mean anything, that I had a moral responsibility to that child, that Stephanie needed support, and that if I was a decent man, I'd help her anyway. I responded, "You're crazy. The kid isn't mine. I don't have any legal or moral responsibility to a child who isn't mine and whose mother blatantly lied to me." And that's when things got really ugly. Like 2 weeks after that, I'm at work, at my desk, when my coworker tells me, "Tyler, there are some people asking for you at reception." I go down thinking maybe it's a delivery or something, and when I get to reception, I see Stephanie and Megan standing there with a giant sign that says, "Deadbeat Dad" in red letters. Can you believe it? They walked into my workplace with a fucking sign, accusing me of being an irresponsible father. The receptionist was shocked. My coworkers who were around just stared, and I literally didn't know what to do. I told them, "Get out of here now. This is harassment." And they started yelling that I was a monster, that I was abandoning my son. All kinds of things. Security had to remove them, but the damage was already done. My boss called me to his office that same afternoon and said, "Tyler, I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but you can't bring that kind of drama to work. If it happens again, we're going to have to reconsider your position here." I tried to explain to him that the kid wasn't mine, that I had proof, but he just told me to resolve it quickly and that it better not happen again. That night, I barely slept. I was furious, humiliated, scared of losing my job because of these crazy women. The next morning, I called a lawyer that Ryan recommended to me. Her name was Elizabeth Morgan, and I told her the whole situation. She listened to me, reviewed the paternity test and all the messages I had saved, and told me, "This is clear harassment and defamation. You can take legal action." I told her to do whatever she had to do, because I was already fed up with this whole situation. Elizabeth sent cease and desist letters to both Stephanie and Megan, telling them to stop contacting me, going to my workplace, spreading false information about me, or they'd face legal consequences. I thought that would scare them and make them stop. Megan created a whole Facebook group called something like Single Mothers Against Irresponsible Fathers and started posting about me, with my full name and everything, saying I had abandoned my son, that I refused to pay child support, that I was a perfect example of what's wrong with men. She didn't post the paternity test, obviously, because that would ruin her whole narrative. My friends started sending me screenshots. People I didn't even know were sending me hate messages. Some of my clients at work saw the posts and started asking questions. Stephanie was also sharing everything on her social media, posting photos of the kid with captions like, My son asks why his dad doesn't love him. It was nauseating, honestly, using an innocent child for a lie like that. The lowest point came like a month later. I'm leaving work on a Friday, and I see there are like 20 people outside the building with signs. It was a fucking protest. Megan and Stephanie had organized a demonstration outside my workplace with all their friends from the Facebook group. The signs said things like, "Children need responsible fathers," and "Tyler the deadbeat," and they were there shouting slogans. My boss saw me arrive and told me to go straight to his office. He told me this was unacceptable, that it was affecting the company's image, that I had a week to resolve this, or they'd fire me. 1 week. To resolve something I hadn't even caused. I called Elizabeth in a panic and told her we needed to act now. She told me she already had everything ready to file a formal lawsuit for harassment and defamation against both of them, Stephanie and Megan. I told her, go ahead, do whatever was necessary. The lawsuit was filed the following Monday. We were asking for damages for loss of reputation, emotional distress, and basically for all the hell they'd put me through. We also requested a temporary restraining order. When they got the lawsuit notification, things changed fast. Stephanie's lawyer called Elizabeth like 2 days later, wanting to negotiate a settlement. Out of court. Basically, Stephanie realized that if this went to trial and the paternity test was presented along with all the messages and evidence of harassment, she was going to lose horribly and probably pay much more. Elizabeth negotiated hard. The settlement included that Stephanie had to make a public statement retracting, delete all posts about me, pay me like $15,000 in damages, and sign a permanent no-contact agreement. She accepted everything. I guess her lawyer explained to her that she had no case, and that continuing with this would only sink her deeper. Megan was harder. She was convinced she was on the right side, that this was a fight for justice or something. My parents had to intervene. My dad specifically told Megan that if she didn't stop with this and didn't settle the lawsuit, he was going to cut off the financial support he gave her for her graduate degree. She was studying social work or something, and my parents were paying her tuition. That finally made her react. We had a conciliation meeting with lawyers present. Megan arrived looking like she'd been crying, which, honestly, made me feel a little bad, but I was also too angry to feel much empathy. Elizabeth put all the evidence on the table, the messages, photos of the protest, screenshots of the posts, everything. Megan's lawyer explained to her that if we went to trial, she would definitely lose and the damages could be much higher. He asked her, "Why are you defending someone who clearly lied when there's a paternity test that proves your brother isn't the father?" Megan finally broke down. She started crying and said that Stephanie had told her the test was manipulated, that I had contacts at the laboratory, all kinds of lies that she had believed because she wanted to believe I was the bad guy. I told her, "Megan, did you really think I'm the type of person who would abandon his child? Do you know me that little? Or did you just want to have your activist moment without caring about the truth?" She didn't know what to answer. The settlement with Megan included that she delete everything she had posted, that she make a public apology in the same Facebook group where she had defamed me, though by that point she'd already closed it, and that she pay me like $25,000 in damages. She didn't have that money, obviously, so my mom ended up helping her pay, which caused more family drama because my dad was furious that mom helped her after everything she'd done. But well, my mom has always been one of those who can't see her children suffer, even when they get themselves into trouble. All this happened like 6 months ago now. The money is already in my account, the agreements are signed, and legally everything is resolved. But the consequences in my family, those haven't gone away. Megan and I basically don't talk. When there are family gatherings, and we coincide, we barely greet each other. She's never given me a real apology, like one where she really takes responsibility. She only said something like, "I'm sorry if you were offended," which isn't even a real apology. My relationship with my mom is also weird. I'm not angry with her, but it bothers me that she helped Megan after everything. My dad understands me more. He told me he's proud that I defended myself and that I did the right thing. Ryan has been my rock through all this. Honestly, he always supported me from day one and even offered to pay for a lawyer if I needed it. As for work, I managed to keep my position. When everything was resolved, I showed my boss the agreements and restraining orders, and he understood that I had been a victim of all this. Some people in the office still look at me weird from time to time, but most have already forgotten or understand what happened. The craziest thing about all of this is thinking about that kid, Jackson. He had nothing to do with any of this, but his mom used him as a tool to try to get money from me. I wonder if she'll ever tell him the truth, if he'll grow up thinking his dad abandoned him, or if Stephanie will finally tell him who his real father is. It's not my problem, honestly, but I do feel bad thinking about that kid growing up with a mom who's capable of lying like that. Last week, I saw Megan at my parents' house at a family lunch. She was in the kitchen with my mom, and when I walked in, she went quiet. I grabbed a glass of water and left without saying anything. Ryan followed me outside and said, "Someday things are going to get better, give it time." I just told him, maybe, I don't know, but it's not my priority to fix this anymore. She made her decision to believe a stranger over her own brother, and that says a lot. Ryan patted me on the shoulder and said, "Well, I'm always going to be on your side, bro. And that, at the end of the day, is what matters, I guess."